Hi, I'm Sam Sells, and welcome to my podcast, Clean Money. I like to say investing matters, and my show is to talk with everyday folks that are not only creating great success, but making an impact in society and improving the lives of others. That is my mission, and I want to share my stories and others with you. Welcome to Clean Money. Thank you, everyone, for joining with us today for another great episode of Clean Money, where we talk about making a difference in the world through our investments of time and resources. My guest today is the incredible Brent Bowers, who is an investor and coach with the focus on buying and selling vacant land, which is super interesting. It's not something that I talk a lot about on my podcast, so I'm very interested for this. And of course, one of the reasons why I love Brent Bowers is because he was an Army officer with over 8 years of service. He spent a great deal of time away from family, which we were just talking about before we started. And he knew he needed to make some changes in order to be more present with his wife and children. I have felt that so many times. I spent well over 3 years away from my family. And I know you've probably surpassed that in your 8 years, but yeah, just crazy. Anyhow, Brent began investing in real estate as a way to support his family while having more time to spend with them. In a short period of time, Brent was able to expand his business, hire a team, and still had more time to spend with his family, which was your goal, right? Objective. Brent now helps other investors learn the ins and outs of buying land. Welcome to the show, Brent.
Hey, thanks for having me, Sam. And thanks for your service, man. I'll tell you what, any time away from our families is too much time. Thanks for any veterans, people that are deployed or in the field or training right now. It's just amazing how much we're away from our families. And that's tough on all of us. And I'll tell you, it's been a life-changing to have found land investing. So I'm glad to be able to share my story today and help some other people.
Yeah, thank you. And I love that. I love that you're continually giving back. I'm going to brag on you a little bit now. You, when you were in the Army, you went to Afghanistan twice, so you got to, you didn't get it right the first time. You had to go back a second time, right?
Yeah.
But you were part of the route clearance teams, and if you guys don't know what route clearance is, they would go out on the roads and look for bombs and find them, sometimes by accident. Sometimes most of the time on purpose. And then there's always a friendly Afghan ready to put a new bomb into place as soon as these guys leave. But I know as a person who traveled all over Afghanistan by convoy, out walking in the middle of nowhere, getting lost sometimes, the route clearance folks kept us alive. And so I really appreciate your sacrifice. And your diligence to help preserve others at incredible risk of your own. It's so wonderful to have you on the show. And Clean Money is all about, us giving back in a meaningful way. And you did for me. I was in Afghanistan. We missed each other in those days. But same, some other guys were there doing it for us when I was there. So, you come back and you realize that you don't like spending your entire life away from your family. You got married for a reason. You had kids for a reason. You kind of like them. So how was that? And, was that an easy transition out of full-time service, or was it a challenge?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a challenge. And first, I want to give a disclaimer. I was not route clearance nor a combat engineer. I was with the combat engineers, with the route clearance. I was their signal guy. I made sure that all 48 of our trucks could communicate. They take me on routes from time to time. They took great care of me. Those guys, man, those are true crazy. I was about to say true heroes, but they're just crazy. They're just crazy. Who looks for bombs for a living? I think shark diving's probably easier. So anyhow, I still have some amazing true friends from years ago, from those times. But the transition out of the military, I say it was difficult. It was scary as heck, because I was nervous. One thing about the military is you might be away from your family all the time. but you have everything provided for you. You don't have to think about what you're going to wear, what you're going to eat, what you're going to be doing the next day, because you're going to be told what to do, told what to wear, told what to eat. And it's very easy to get institutionalized. And a lot of guys do 20 years because they don't realize there's other options out there. And I'm not an advocate of getting people out of the military. I'm just talking about my story. My story was after my first deployment, I was freaking broke. I had a rental house and I was just kind of complaining right before you hit the record button, because I still have rental properties, but there's always the rats and the rodents and the residents and the termites and the trash and the backed up sewer pipes and, broken wash machines, all that bull crap that you got to go through to have these rentals. And maybe one day you can sell these for a profit. But we had a rental that was trashed while I was in Afghanistan. So I saved up like a couple $1,000. Guess where all that money went? It was to renovate this house that this tenant, this deadbeat tenant, destroyed because she stopped paying her rent and she was mad at me and mad at life. But my first wife.
It's your fault that she stopped paying rent. So she's going to take it out on you. Yeah. I've had that.
And my wife also took it out on me too. She was pissed because we were broke. She's like, we should be traveling. You were just gone a whole entire year. We should be having fun, but we're here. We're sitting at the house. We can hardly afford groceries because all the money went to fix up this rental property. So ultimately she ended up leaving me. So I was not the best soldier. I did not want to be there anymore. And, fast forward a couple of years, I met the woman of my dream, Emily. She's now my wife, and we got married and we had kids, and I had a huge why. And that was to get my time back. I had to buy my time back. And ultimately, I didn't know how to do that, but I found land investing and I was able to start making passive income. And I built that up to about almost $9,000 a month. And when I hit that $9,000 a month, I put in my refrad packet to get out of the military. And luckily they granted that access to get out. And it was the best decision ever. Was I scared? I was still scared.
Yeah.
But through passive income, it allowed that way. So I can have my time freedom and my financial freedom and ultimately geography freedom. I do this from anywhere in the world.
Yeah. I love that. We share very similar whys. I had an opportunity to get out a little bit early with still retirement. Was one of the lucky few who have been able to do that. But at 17 years of active duty, I could have stayed longer, but and even gotten more in retirement. But at that point, our son had just turned 3. I had been on, I don't know, a lot of deployments, a lot of TDYs. I was getting close to 400 days away from home, and my wife, we're in Alaska. I'm traveling to Korea back and forth all the time because we're putting me in charge of building this 500-bed or rebuilding this 500-bed hospital. And my wife's like, I'm going to strangle you, like for real. You've got to do something. And so I started, and fortunately was able to create $6,000 or $7,000 a month in passive income. And with my retirement, I knew that I was be able to get, it was enough. And so then it was, okay, let's just push this and get it done. And I was able to get out. It's incredible though, the freedom. Like we live near our family, but my brother, who's my business partner, he's like, I'm gonna go live in Colombia for a little bit. I was like,
man, that's awesome.
Cool. So he's in Medellin right now. Still working. I still see him, but it's awesome. It's just awesome. So time freedom, location freedom, freedom to spend with your family. How did you do it? How did you, did you do it?
Yeah, let me tell you how I did it. But before I do, you kind of struck a chord there. I was preparing for combat deployment number 3. And it's funny, you lost count. 17 years, I would have lost count too. Holy crap. I was only in for 8.5, so I could still keep track of a little bit of it. But I was training for combat deployment number 3 that I never had to go on. But we were in the field for 3 months. Basically, we're living in the field. We're taking showers we're barely showering when we do it. But I moved my wife back to Florida so she'd have help with our 2 kids. And I remember her telling me, and this is not to complain about her, but she's like, I resent you because, and I know why she said it now. It broke my heart when she said it. But I resent you because you're not here to wake up through all the hours of the night when these kids are waking me up and I'm exhausted. I haven't had sleep in days. And our first son didn't sleep until he was 6 months old. But like going through life like that, like I was like, they're not possible. I'm not going to keep on this journey. And I didn't want history repeating itself. I already mentioned what, like, the first marriage didn't work out. So that was my huge why. And how did I do it? I started time blocking. I didn't know what that was back then. What is time blocking? I would carve out times of my day when I would be so laser vision focused. And how did I do that? I would carve out an hour here, an hour there. There's technique called the 50-10-50, where it's like you laser vision focus on your task for 50 minutes and take a 10-minute break and then do it again for 50 minutes. I didn't have the luxury of like 2 hours at a time, but I would have to be on base by 6 a.m. So I would get up at 4 a.m., do my Bible study, do my prayer, then, work on my business. And how did I work on my business? I did money making activities. I picked an area where land was selling, which ultimately was really in my own backyard. It was about a two-hour drive from where I currently lived. And how I did it back then is not the best way. But I just started buying and selling vacant raw land. How did I find the land back then? I just got my county tax delinquent list. What is that? That's basically people that are not paying their taxes on their properties. So I was able to get this list, and it was like a scanned in PDF, and it was terrible to read. It was scheduled numbers, which is another word for assessor parcel numbers. The county which I was in was El Paso County, Colorado. And I would have to put that schedule number into the county assessor's website. So if you Google like whatever county you're in, El Paso County assessor, the assessor website will pop up, and you have to hit like property research. So I would put the assessor's number in there and figure out, okay, is this a piece of land? Is this a mobile home? Is it a single family home? What's the address of these people? What's the name? Is there an address to the property? That was so time consuming. So I found someone on Upwork.com. I found a virtual assistant, and I did a video, and I also wrote it down in steps that they should take, because I was like, okay, maybe they can read it, they can see it, and they can hear me say it. So I'm going to really show them how to do it. And I had her check in with me after she got like 10 of them. And I went and checked her work, basically. And she was on the right path, charged me $5 an hour. And ultimately, we got 687 vacant parcels of land of people that I thought were on the tax delinquent list. Turned out it was the county held tax lien list, the wrong list. So I screwed up yet again. But here's the thing. This land was like inefficient, not buildable, not accessible, landlocked, too small to build on. So it's like garbage no one wants, right? Not even tax lien investors were paying the back taxes on it because they didn't want to get stuck with it. Well, these people received my postcard. And if anybody wants a copy of this postcard, you can head to thelandsharks.com/postcard. That postcard, I purchased millions of dollars worth of land with. So it is by far one of the best tested, mailers I've ever used. But anyhow, 687 mailers went out. I'm the executive officer for a forward support company at this time for an infantry battalion. I'm working like crazy. It's like 12 hours a day. And my phone starts blowing up from these landowners saying, yeah, it's yours. Take it. $285, it's yours. $500, it's yours. Like, and the back calls. And I start going out and looking at this land on weekends. And I had no clue what I'm looking at. I had no clue what it's worth. So I'm just like, I heard a guy on a podcast. If he did it, I can do it. And I took massive, violent, imperfect action.
Yeah.
That's what we do in the military. I just wish I had an operation order or some type of map to show me what to do. So I just kept making mistakes. So the first one, I called a realtor. Go ahead, Sam.
No, you're saying all this, and I'm laughing because while I wasn't doing this in land, I was doing this in mobile home parks and then multifamily. And it was the same thing. It was like, I don't know what to do. And I was too dumb to find a mentor and get a coach to help me. I just thought, I'm just going to take violent action. I try not to say that very often to my non-military folks who are like, oh, no violence. And like, no, this is all right. Okay. I'll just be nice. But yeah, go out there, take violent action and make something happen and screw it all up, fix it and learn and keep going. And I'm laughing because I know you're making all these mistakes and you're having all this self-doubt, but you're also doing something. And in the process, you're learning and it leads you to become successful in a way that not having experience could ever do. You have to have experience.
Yeah. I had nothing to lose. I was broke. I was sick and tired of being told what to do, where to go, what to wear. And I was tired of not being able to travel and, freaking social media. I see my friends and that I went to high school with, like they're going on trips with their children and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to change this. I'm going to do something different with my life, no matter what it takes. And I was totally fine just failing and failing and failing until it worked, because I knew that I had a 3-year runway. I knew I had 3 years to make it work, because once you put that packet in, it's 3 years. Like I had 3 years left on my contract. So I was like, all right, I could screw it all up as long as I figured out on the 36th month, I'm good. So yeah, that first $285 parcel of land, it was a retired CPA that traded that land for tax work. And he's like, look, it's yours for $285. And you know what? That's just what he owed on taxes. He wasn't pocketing any money. So he took that money and went and paid the taxes with it. So he didn't even keep it. I didn't know that until later on. Well, I said, look, can I go look at the land this weekend? He said, sure. So I looked at the land, me, my wife, and my newborn baby. Yeah. And Zechariah, he's out there on the piece of land with us. And we leave the land, and I call this real estate office because I'm like thinking maybe they know what they're doing. And the real estate office was like right by the land. It's like a mile away. And the lady answers the phone on a Saturday. I tell her where the land's at. It's like, look, I'm in the process of buying it. I want to know the 30-day blowout price. Like, what's the get it done now price? Because $285, like I can't have this invested in land. That's diaper money. That's rent money for me. Yeah. Like if I would and I had to get this money back quick because I was in debt too, by the way. I didn't mention that. I had all this debt and credit cards, but she said, I don't know, maybe 10,000, maybe it's worth 10,000. And my eyes almost popped out of my head. I was like, wait a minute, I'm going to turn $285 into 10,000. I hung up that phone like the smartest person in the world. And I was telling my wife, it's like, she couldn't believe it. And the phone rings and it's the realtor calling me back. She goes, hey, what if I made an offer on that land? I was like, sure. What do you offer? And she said, $5,000. And I was like, let's do it. Like, when do you want it? And she said, I can close on Wednesday. And I said, okay, let's do it. Send me the purchase agreement. So she had it in my email box before I even made it home. I called the seller and said, hey, can I pay you on Tuesday? Give me the deed on Tuesday. I brought it up to the title company, went and got my certified check for $5,000 the next day on Wednesday. And I was hooked. I was like, but I had the limiting belief. I was like, there's no way I can keep doing this. Yeah. And I did it again and again and again. And the second one, that's the one that changed my life. That's one I sold for $500 or for $400 a month, 500 down, 400 a month. And I paid 500 for the land. That one was where my paradigm shift happened, because now it's paying my truck payment. And I was like, if I do this 10 more times, that's our expenses. We're financially free, honey.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
you're just on to another thing.
It's just not another scheme, another harebrained scheme. So yeah. Yeah. So you kept doing it. And you said you're not buying. So you were looking at the list that had tax liens on it, correct? So they hadn't been paying their taxes and it was a tax lien position. So you're basically buying it for the price of the tax lien. I've done this once myself. Landlocked land. We paid, I think, $1,500 for it, and we still have it. I don't know if I told my wife that. I probably should.
So I was buying it directly from the owner, though. I would buy it from the owner, and we get the taxes caught up on the land once I would sell it for a down payment and a monthly payment. I would sell or finance it. So I'd take my buyer's down payment and I would tell them, it's like, look, we're about $800 behind on taxes. I need $1,600 down. Yeah. So I'd take their cash and go and bring it to the treasurer's office and get that tax lien paid off.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you don't have to worry about it. There's no insurance. You don't need insurance. There's no payment because there's no debt. It's just, you got to pay the taxes next year. So you need to save $800 out of your $400 a month payment. So 10 months.
And I would charge the buyer that. I would charge the buyer for that. They'd pay
You owe the taxes. Yeah. Because you bought it. Right.
Yep. Yeah, they would pay me monthly, and I would collect that money all year long and use it, which I don't know if that's legal. You're supposed to actually have an escrow account for that. I didn't know that. Disclaimer. I don't try and do illegal things or ever operate in the shadows because I want to sleep well at night. But I would use that money all year long. And then when those taxes were due at $1,200 or whatever, I was like, oh, crap, let's go pay this.
Yeah,
Pay the
yeah.
taxes.
That's, it's part of the learning curve. And I talk a lot about syndications because I do syndications. We've done quite a few of them now, but there's just a lot of ways you can mess up because you don't know the rules. And so if you're going to get involved in this kind of stuff, definitely go talk to someone who's been in there and can walk you through the rules. And then you're probably going to have to go back and ask them the exact same questions again in a month because you have forgotten most of what they just told you. And then it's just this learning process. So you're spending 3 years learning and doing at the same time, and you're making money. So once you did that second deal and all of a sudden you got positive and passive income, your life has changed. You're like, this is it.
Yeah. I didn't realize it was that simple. Was it a lot of work? Yes, it was absolutely a lot of work. And, would I have liked to avoid all the traps and the pitfalls and, all the things that I made? I made stupid mistakes. Like I didn't do title work. I didn't do title checks or owners and encumbrances. These things cost $5. I was too stupid to do that.
Yeah.
And no one told me to do it. And I should have known because I had already had rental properties and I was a licensed real estate agent. But I made so many mistakes. Like I bought craters in the ground and all these things. But my biggest thing was like every time I did a land deal, I would either, assign my contract, get some quick cash. That's what I did with that realtor that bought that first one. Mm-hmm. And then I'd build my bank account up, pay off American Express. And then I would buy another one and then I would sell that one on seller financing. And really the reason why I started seller financing it was I thought the land was worthless.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, maybe someone will pay me monthly payments for it. And then, once we had like $7,000 or $8,000 a month coming in, I flipped a few more parcels and then just started turning it into a business and got just really, focused with it. Started time blocking, actually my mailings to go out and then started testing some other things and just kept growing it and growing it and growing it.
So how many parcels have you purchased? Do you have that number?
I'm a little over 390 at this point.
And how long
parcels of land? 2016 was my first land parcel.
So 7 years. And you've didn't start out buying 30 parcels a year. You started out buying one and then another.
Yeah.
And you just kept going.
And they just keep getting bigger. Like we bought one that was $1.2 million. I actually syndicated that deal. Again, what you said, we made a mistake. I didn't realize I just couldn't call people in my phone and pull money together and buy a piece of land. Then we hired a syndication attorney, paid him $12,000 and did a reverse. I had to fix our errors and then create an operating agreement and all these things. But we should sell that land hopefully here soon for like 1.8. We could put 84 apartments on it or 34 townhomes. It's right in the middle of Colorado Springs on Academy Boulevard. 6-lane highway in front of it, golf course behind it. It's like these things fall into your lap. I mean, land is the absolute easiest way to become a multimillionaire in real estate. And there's no competition. Hardly anybody's doing this or talking about this.
Because I think the reason is that when they think about it, you think you need to finance it. And if there's no income coming off the property, how do you finance it? And so for bigger property, you raise investor cash and you're covering the debt service if there is debt on it. So that's your holding cost, but you're raising that ahead of time while you position it and then sell it. And you could even do an owner finance on something like that within a syndication, and then everyone's getting a set payment every month. Brilliant.
I mean, syndication is really complicated in my world. You can do that in your sleep. Sam, I've only done 2 syndications. I had no clue. I still don't understand them. That's a big word for me. But sometimes the seller will owner finance it to you.
Yeah.
And you can do what's called a wrap, So I'll give an example of one I'm about to get paid out on right now. I bought it for 75 grand, early 2017. The seller carried the whole entire mortgage, 0% interest. So every time I made a payment, my principal would go down. Well, I turned around and sold it for $29,000 down. And I've been getting a payment from this gentleman, and I sold it to him for 159,000. I bought it for 75. I sold it to him for 159, and I charge him 4.5%.
Yeah. And he got
That's
a deal.
crazy.
He's super happy, right?
Yeah, he's looking at the interest rates now. That's crazy right now. That only 4.5%, and then I financed it for him for 30 years. That 159,000 would have turned into over 300 grand in 30 years with all the interest and the payments. These banks have it figured out, by the way.
Oh yeah.
$200,000 mortgage at 6% interest, you pay back 430 grand. That's not 6%, right? That's compounding interest. But here's the thing. He's selling it. So I'm going to collect that whole entire note, which is like 126 grand here in the next couple of days. And now I got to figure out what to do with the money. I got to buy another piece of land with it, I guess. Or I don't know, stash it away. But I'm getting more in cash, and I've been getting payments for all these years. I'm getting more in cash on a payment than what I even paid for the land. So it's just nuts. And I didn't use any of my own money for that deal. I didn't have any money, by the way, so I couldn't have used my own money.
Yeah, I love it. I tell people when I bought my first mobile home park and then our second one, collectively we came up with $170,000 down. When we started, I had $30,000. My dad had 80, and that was his entire retirement. He's 65 years old then, and he just lost his job. So dumb to start a commercial real estate business with your son, who's active duty military, gone all the time. I started time blocking, didn't even know, but getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, working for a couple hours, and then going to work, and then coming home, spending time with the family, and then working late in the evening. It just got used to operating off of 5 hours of sleep or 4 hours of sleep, and 6 if it was a weekend and slept in, but still getting up early and scripture study, and then get my mind right, and then work and be proficient. And there's so many commonalities between the both of us, and just what we had to do to find success. The land thing is fantastic because you don't have tenants and toilets and people trashing your home. So if we could just go in real quick, I know we've already been talking for a while, but I hate single family homes. I never want to invest in single family homes again. When I was in Afghanistan, my wife was ready to strangle me because, well, even before I left for Afghanistan, I spent 3 months with the Army doing combat advisor training and shooting big 50 cows and doing all this cool, fun stuff, but away from my family. I'd much rather be home. But we just flipped this home, but she was still living in it. We hadn't sold it yet. And I'm gone, and the pipes break, sewage goes all down the basement. And she's like so angry. You did this to me. I'm gone, right? And so I come home for like 2 weeks, get her out, move her out, sell that house, back to the Army, and then to Afghanistan for 9 months or whatever it was, and then back home. And we had another single family house that we're still renting out. And of course, those people stop paying rent, take it out on us, trash the home because it's our fault that they couldn't make rent, and we allowed them to stay for 3 months. We're trying to be nice while they found another job. Anyhow, it's always your fault. I've just learned it's just always my fault. So when they're out, I'm saying to myself, I never want to do a single family house again. And I never bought another one after that, ever. We still had that one for a few more years, but you still have single family homes. Why? And what are you going to do?
I'll tell you. So here's the thing. I let ego really take over. So I got in this business to get my time back, and then it started like turning into ego. It's like, yeah, we could buy this house. Oh, here's this deal. And we started flipping houses too. And we were throwing good money at bad. What does that mean? I was using the land money to flip houses, and we keep them as rentals, because I'm like, oh man, if I do this thing called cost segregation and depreciation. Now talk to your CPA about this. Be very careful. But the IRS writes tax laws, whatever they call them, for landlords because you provide housing. So I was like, okay, I'm going to have a tax bill of about 80 grand. maybe I could take this cash and put it on a down payment on a house. So we bought a lake house because we wanted a vacation home. And then, we started doing the Airbnbs and like all these things, but I'm not paying any taxes and I'm accumulating all these houses all over the place. But what they don't tell you about this is like, so I'm thinking I'm really smart again, right? I'm not paying taxes because I'm doing what the government wants me to do by providing housing. I'm building my wealth because these things are appreciating like crazy because the market's skyrocketing. The rent is pretty much covering the mortgage. There's like $200-300 left over. So I'm taking a cash flowing asset, which is land, and buying another cash flowing asset. We bought our office building, a 19-unit apartment complex. So I was just buying everything like a crazy person. But what they don't tell you about is like there's always something to fix. Like you pretty much have to have an entire village or herd of contractors on your team to always be fixing things. And, nothing against contractors, but there's a few good ones out there. Not all of them are so great.
Yeah. We started our own construction company for that reason. Because we would, you're paying like 10 or 12 grand, 15 grand a unit to get it rehabbed. It takes them 3 weeks to turn one unit. And when we built our own crews, we would spend about $7,000 on a unit, 6,000, 5,000, depending on how nice we're making it. Flip it, and we would get 3 units done a week. And so we would be at a property and we could churn out 20, 25, 30 units a month sometimes if we had two crews that are just churning out units. Getting it back on the market. And so if you can do like 96 units at one property in 6 months, and you got another property that you're doing 30 units, and this property got 20 units, I mean, our construction company would just killed it and still kills it. And so we've just started opening that up to other people that we can come and do those things, but it's got to be an apartment complex. It's got to be something that has a lot of units because one property is not enough, And so we've started doing that, and that made a huge benefit. But single family homes, we bought as a portfolio, we bought 9 single family homes that went with these apartment complexes. And I wish I never would have done that deal. It cash flows, it made money, but I can do the same thing in a much bigger place. So 150 unit apartment complex, that's where a village is already there.
Yeah.
They live, they're managed. You don't spend all your time chasing, everybody, because there's professional property management on the site. You can hire third party management to manage the already existing property managers. That's okay if you want to spend more money and even be more passive. But otherwise, if you're in a small apartment complex or single family homes, you're jobbing. It's just.
Yeah, it's a job. It turns into a job really quickly. And even the land business can turn into a job if you're just flipping all of them and making quick cash. It's a transaction roller coaster.
Yeah.
That's my goal. It's like every time I can't sell or finance all of them. Like I just did one that we bought for 40, sold it for 90. I borrowed money from my mother-in-law. I borrowed the 40,000 and we sold it for 90 at a higher interest rate. So it's a positive arbitrage, but, that one's going to pay us for 13 and a half years. So I'm looking at the long run as sometimes 30 years. I prefer them to pay for 30 years because it's like, I know that I'm gonna get that $572 a month for the next 360 months.
Yeah. It's gorgeous.
And even that runs out,
Yeah. Even that runs out. But, most people don't hold things for 30 years. I think the average hold on a house is 6 to 7 years. It's probably less than that now.
Yeah, same thing for this land that's paying me off this week. People think I'm crazy doing a 30-year mortgage. Well, here's the thing. Like people move every 5 to 7 years, and this guy is selling it 6 years later. I collected pretty much interest-only payments for the last 6 years now.
Yeah, that's how the banks have it figured out because of amortization heavily weighs interest up front. So even if it's not an interest-only loan, it's still like 90% interest right out the gate, right?
Exactly. First 10 years is pretty much all interest.
Yeah.
So after that, they can sell it.
Yeah. No, stop paying down the principal. Give me the big money. I'll go do a couple more of these. Yep. Rinse and repeat. Well, that's fantastic. So you have a great website. I love your website. I love what you're doing. It is what I consider clean money. When people work with you, they know what's happening with their dollars. They know how you're investing. You're making an impact. You're finding pieces of land that are not on the market and you're making them available to somebody else for a great price, right? You just happen to make money. And there's nothing wrong with making money. In fact, we all should make money. We have to make money, right? We have to. But why not
Yeah,
make money? Yeah.
if you're not making money, if you're not profitable, you could even be talking about a church. You could talk about a grocery store. If you're not profitable, you won't be around much longer. It's like I had a painter one time say, I lost money on this job. Well, sir, if you lost money, you need to tell me what's going to make you money, because you won't be around next year when I need you again for a different project.
Yeah.
So you got to be profitable to stay in business.
Yeah, you have to be profitable to stay in business. We like to say no margin, no mission. If you can't make a margin, there is no mission. There's no sustainability. You're going to be out of business. Mm-hmm. No matter how much you love everybody and everything, you'll
find you love people more when you're wildly profitable.
Yeah. Same with a charity, right? If nobody's giving money to the charity, you're done.
Yep.
You have to raise money. So charities spend a lot of money and time raising money. All right. Well, Brent, it's been fantastic to talk with you today. How can people find you? How can they reach out to you?
Yeah, I just started building a TikTok channel, Brent L. Bowers 1. I do a video each day on how I'm buying and selling land. I also coach people. I hold your hand and walk people through how to build this business. I just got a single mom of 4, her 4th land deal. She just made a $28,000 net profit on one deal. Head on over to thelandsharks.com, schedule a call, fill out an application. Either me or someone on my team will take the call. And it's been a wonderful time on clean money.
Yeah. Thanks, Brent. Really appreciate it. We'll make sure that all of that is available in the show notes. And thank you so much for being on the call. It's been a lot of fun.
God bless, Sam. Talk to you later.
God bless. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to Clean Money, where we talk about sustainable investing that improves society. We are passionate about creating great investment returns to investors who want to use their money to make a positive social impact in the world. If you enjoyed the episode, we'd appreciate a 5-star review. And if you are interested in making your investing matter, please connect with us at wildmountaincapital.com, or you can find me, Samuel Sells, on LinkedIn, on Twitter at Sells_Samuel, on Instagram at Clean Money Sam, or on Facebook. And finally, make your investing matter.